Hi everyone, it's Jessica. Thanks for coming by today to watch as I create a project in collaboration with my fellow Makers with Heart ladies. Now this month we have decided that our collaboration is going to focus on ways to use flip flaps, which are a really amazing product that Close to My Heart carries, and there are so many different ways that you can incorporate those into a project. So just to get started here, I'm going to show you, I have got a couple of photos that I would like to use, and these are of my parents and my kids up in the UP of Michigan, and we were blowing some bubbles. This is one of our fun traditions that we like to do every summer. And I also have this really fun cut file, which I have cut a couple of letters out. I did the contour feature and offset so that I can back the bubbles word. And I used Cake Day paper to cut that out, and then also some Bluebird cardstock. Now here, I'm going to be using some flip flaps. I just pulled a couple to show you. These are the 4x6, and you can see that it actually has a strip across either side. So you get in a package different ways that you could attach them. The 4x4 is just 4x4, so there's only one strip. But here you can see that Close to My Heart actually carries a variety of sizes, and they go as small as 2x2, and some of them actually can even go the length of your 12x12 scrapbooking page. And so they're just a really fun way to incorporate extra photos into your project. So I'm going to be using this 4x4 photo. So really, this is going to allow me to take this and have space for 3 pictures, really only using the real estate of 1. So it lets me kind of take a really cool cut file like this. It's going to take up the whole space of the page, and one photo that's really like the star of the show as far as I'm concerned, my favorite of the 3, and create what is essentially a 1 photo layout, but allows me to input some extra pictures in there as well. And so that's one of the ways that I really like to use flip flaps is, adding extra photos, obviously, especially even if I have a layout that has a lot of photos anyway, and then you just have like a ton and you don't want to make pages and pages on the same event, then this is another way to do that. But like I said, I like to do it this way when I do want to create those 1 photo layouts, but I actually have more than 1 picture. So that's my particular take on the flip flap for this project. And the other ladies in the Makers with Heart group are going to show you their ways that they like to use flip flaps as well. So at the end of the video, I will show you how I do this along with my plastic page protector. So make sure that you stay tuned to the very end. Now here I'm just kind of trying to lay out exactly where I'm going to have my cut file on the page, and I was kind of playing with if I wanted it to be on at an angle or on straight, and then my photo at an angle or my photo on straight, and then I ultimately decide I'm going to put the cut file straight, and then I'm going to tilt my photo at an angle. And once I have this kind of figured out where I'm going to put it, I'm going to take my negative piece that I cut out of Bluebird cardstock here, and I'm going to use it like a stencil. So I'm going to just kind of get it positioned on my piece of white daisy paper so that I have a basic idea of about where I wanted that cut file to lay, and then I'm holding it in place with my 1 finger just so it doesn't kind of move as I pull that cut file back out. And then off camera, I will take a little bit of washi tape and just secure this down to my piece of white daisy cardstock. And then I've grabbed my little blending brush there and some Carolina ink. I love to combine Carolina and Bluebird together. I think those colors play together so nicely. And I'm going to just put a little bit of color behind where this cut file is going to be on my page. That way those bubbles, those circles stand out just a little bit more. And I thought that this would be a really fast and easy way to add that color. And it turned out that it really was, and it ends up looking so cool. So I'm just going to take a little bit of time to kind of pick up some of that color with my brush. And then every now and then I do kind of like tap it off on the lid if I feel like maybe I've gotten too much on there, because I don't want to have like a big blotch of color on my paper. I really want to keep it kind of soft and light, the way that bubbles feel. And I'm just going around. And at this point, I wasn't sure if I was going to want to have a little bit of color coming outside of my cut file or if I wanted to definitely keep inside of those circles. So I'm just kind of at this point trying to keep it on the page and not go off the edge of that Bluebird there until I figure that part out. I'll go around and do this, and I'll finish the rest of it off camera. You can see here I've just added a little bit in the middle, and it always looks like when you still have that on there that you don't have that much color until the big reveal and you pull it off. Excuse me. And then it's so fun to see that, oh, actually there is a lot of color down on that page. Doesn't that look so fun? And now I will just lay that cut file right back over top of it, line everything up, and we've added some color behind. Okay, and so I like the way that looks, and before I adhere this to my page, what I'm going to do is grab my splatter box, which is just an empty box that some of my Close to My Heart stuff came in, and this is the Dina Wakley gloss spray in turquoise, I want to say. I'll leave it in the description box down below if that's not correct. And I will just open up the lid, and I kind of use the little stopper to tap and put some splatters down on my page that way. I don't actually spray my gloss sprays very often. I prefer to kind of add them to my projects in this manner because they create some really fun splatters. And then other thing that I really love about the Dina Wakley gloss spray is that it dries so quickly. So usually by the time I put my splatter box away and kind of put away my gloss spray, and then already these drops are dried, and so that's really cool. And you can see here, I'll show you a close-up in just a second. It looks really fun, kind of like you've got little mini bubbles floating through the air, and it matches with that Carolina color so nicely. Okay, so now I have adhered that cut file back over top of all of that color. And then now what I'm going to do is take my photos, which I have matted in some wild berry cardstock to kind of pick up that pink color that's in my bubbles word. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere this flip flap. Now you can see there's like a little strip of adhesive at the top, and you just pull that covering off of it. Beware, it is very, very sticky. So know exactly where you're going to want your flip flap to go on your project before you stick it down, because the chances of pulling it back up and moving it somewhere else are not going to work out so well for you. So just know that it is super sticky. It's not going to go anywhere, which is really nice. It just means that you need to be careful when first putting it down. And so I like to kind of hold that bottom photo in place so I can kind of see my placement, and then go ahead and just use my finger to really burnish that onto the paper. And then I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of the photo that will actually be on the page. I'm going to hold it up behind the photos that I have put in that flip flap and then lay it down flat against my page. And that way when my flip flap closes, I know I got everything lined up exactly the way it needs to be. And also that page, the picture that is on the actual page itself, it does also help to cover a little bit where that strip of adhesive for the flip flap is, although it is clear and it's not very noticeable, the little part that does show. Okay, now these are bubbles. So I thought, you know what, I really do need to turn it to my liquid glass and kind of add a little bit of extra detail. So I pulled out my liquid glass, and I'm going to pick just a handful of bubbles to add some of this liquid glass to. And if you've never played with liquid glass before, it just kind of adds this clear plastic glass-like coating over your project, and it's going to make these look like bubbles. And so it's really kind of fun thing to play with, and it really acts a lot like super glue too. I'm going to be honest, half the time I pull out my liquid glass to put my son's toys back together when he brings them to me because he's crying that they have broken. And then I pull out the liquid glass and I let it sit for a few hours, and then everything is fixed. So it's a really handy tool to have, not only in your craft room, but just in your house in general. It's perfect for adhering things together, or like here, just adding a little bit of detail to your project. Excuse me, I apologize for my voice in this video. I have been sick lately. Okay, so I'm going to put the last little bit of liquid glass in here, and I am putting it on really thick, so it will actually take quite a bit of time to dry. I walked away from this for about 2 hours before coming back to it again, just to make sure that that liquid glass was good and dry. But there's that. And then you can see I have sprinkled out some of my wild berry sequins over to the side there. And again, I want to kind of play on some of that pop of color that is in the bubbles word. And again, if I didn't mention that those letters are cut from the Cake Day collection, and it's got like a whole bunch of different cool colors in there, like glacier and green apple and lemonade and wild berry. And I did map my photos on that Wildberry photo cardstock, so I wanted to pull that in as well. Okay, and now that I have walked away for a little bit and given it some time to dry, you can see what that liquid glass looks like. It's just a really fun touch to it. And there, that's the flip flap, and then you just open it and really have room for 3 pictures. And so now I want to show you how I like to put this into my page protector. Now for me, as far as my scrapbook goes, this page is going to end up being on the left-hand side. And so I just like to start by kind of sliding it in to the page and tucking it all the way down. And then I take a grease pencil that I picked up at a craft store probably about 20 years ago, and I just put a little mark at the very top of my flip flap, and I go just slightly to the right and the left of where that is, because I want to make a slit that's a little bit longer than the actual flip flap itself. And then I'm going to pull both pages out so that I don't do any damage to the page that's on the opposite side. And I'm going to use my ruler here and go ahead and go back to that grease pencil. And using those 2 marks as my point A and point B, I am going to draw a straight line on there. And that basically is going to be the line that I want to cut. That indicates exactly where that flip flap is going to be. Now this is just a cutting mat that I bought at Meijer. It was actually, they came in a pack of 3 of them for $5. So I put 1 in my craft room, 1 in my camper, and 1 in my kitchen. And I find that it works perfectly because I can just slide it into my 12 by 12 page protector and it fits wherever I need to make that cut. Then I use a craft knife to just draw or cut along that line that I drew. Now I have seen where people will say to make 2 holes on either end of your slit to prevent it from tearing. And once in a great while, I will do something like that if I'm cutting it in a spot where I can easily reach with a hole punch or something. But honestly, most of the time I don't do that, and I have never, ever, ever had any of my cuts on my page protector for flip flaps ever rip. And the only person who really likes to look at my scrapbooks is my son, and he's been doing it since he was like 2 years old, and he's kind of rough with the pages. So, you know, if he can flip through those pages with all those flip flaps and not manage to rip anything, then I think it would probably be fine. But I'm sure you'll see other people say to put like a little hole there just to stop that slit from spreading. But I have never personally had a problem with that. I do sometimes find that it is easier to pull my photos out of the flip flap when I'm trying to put the page into the page protector. That way you can kind of, without bending your photos, you can wiggle that through that slit a little bit better. And then I will go ahead and put that back through, and that's it. It really is an extra like 1 minute step to cut your page protector, and that's just kind of the way that I prefer to do it. I like to have it I think it just gives it a little bit more stability, but I know some people also like to put their flip flaps right on top of the page protector without cutting anything. So that is another option as well if cutting that makes you a little bit nervous. But here you can see some of the still shots of my final project. It came together very quickly, and again, I just love that flip flaps can be used in so many different ways. You know, if you were doing some heritage photos that you really didn't want to cut or put adhesive on the back of, then these are a great way to use them in a project. But you're going to see lots of different ideas from the other ladies in the Makers with Heart group, so make sure to check out all of their links down below. All right, guys, thanks for watching today, and happy crafting.